Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Williams, and I'm coming to you with a cheat sheet for what to expect for tomorrow's Canada's 45th general election. I'm going to give you a couple of things from a conservative perspective, things that you might not hear in the mainstream media. And I get a lot of questions from friends and family. Can the Conservatives win tomorrow night? The short answer is emphatically yes. Even the polls right now that are showing a deficit are still as high as when Stephen Harper won his majority. But what we're seeing on the other side is a complete obliteration of the NDP and maybe the Bloc. So if you're not going to spend the next 8-9 minutes with me, I am calling that we will be getting a minority government tomorrow, and we will be back at the polls within 9 months. But if you want to spend the next few minutes with me, I'll break it down by region, tell you why I think we'll be back at the polls, and give you my prediction on who's going to win. So again, I'll be quickly going from east to west, although I'm going to skip Ontario and come back at the end because once again, tomorrow is going to come down to Ontario, and I'm going to give you key things to understand and what to look for in each region. So starting with Atlantic Canada, it is relatively simple. 24 seats, really only two parties involved here, the Liberals and the Conservatives. In 2015, Trudeau swept Atlantic Canada 24-0. In 2019, the Conservatives won 4 seats. In 2021, they won 8 seats. We really only need to win 8 seats in Atlantic Canada. Are there opportunities to increase that? Could there be reasons why it might retract? Yes. A couple things that we're hearing on the ground is some of our incumbents in Nova Scotia at Rook Perkins riding are feeling really good. There's been some big protests against the Libs with fisheries, unions, and the working class, so keep an eye in rural Newfoundland and some of the bedroom communities around Halifax and Fredericton. If we ever got to double digits, that would be really telling. If they win less than 6, that might also be telling for the Liberals the other way. And a big blown opportunity for the Conservatives, specifically in Nova Scotia, was the lack of the alliance with the Progressive Conservatives. They won the largest majority in the province's history lately, and it's really been a contested relationships with Pierre's Conservative Party of Canada and Tim Houston's local Conservative Party. Similar sentiments in Ontario, and those might end up being the demise of Pierre tomorrow night. We shall see. In Quebec, so the Conservatives definitely do not need Quebec to win. When Harper won his majority in 2011, he only won 6 seats in Quebec. And as you look in 2021, 78 seats, 35 to the Libs, 32 to the Bloc, 10 to the Conservatives, and 1 to NDP. I think the NDP are going to get shut out of Quebec tomorrow, and the big stories here is, are the Libs going to be able to expand their holdings? They seem to be really increasing in the polls in Quebec. Is that just kind of like the Conservatives sometimes in Alberta, where they're wasted votes in ridings they're already won? Or are they going to be able to expand specifically south of the island of Montreal into some Bloc territory there? Will the Bloc get obliterated like we saw early in the polls, or could they increase as Blanchette's had a bit of a comeback? Unknown. What we're hearing on the ground is our incumbents are feeling pretty good. Calgary Center's been able to give money to a couple of our key partners. They're feeling like they're going to win. Even on the inside, the Bloc's internal polling are thinking the Conservatives will win a minority and are already trying to negotiate being a dance partner with the Conservatives. So we'll see. Just trying to give you a couple positive nuggets. And a key battleground for the Conservatives will be Trois-Rivières up against the Blocs there. So that is Quebec. Now moving on to the prairies. A little simple. I did bring in the People's Party here. As you can see in 2021, they started to split the vote with the Conservatives. And although they're not polling as strong, that difference could be key as the Liberals are making grounds in the prairies. So in 2021, there's 28 seats here, 21 Conservative, 4 Liberal, 3 NDP. The Conservatives swept Saskatchewan, and then it was 7-7 in Manitoba. Looks like the Libs are gaining ground on the NDP. And they might even be able to make a little bit of ground in the Saskatchewan as well. We'll see where that NDP vote goes. Take a peek specifically around some of the areas around Winnipeg. In Alberta is a similar story. The Libs are gaining some grounds in Alberta. In 2021, there were 34 seats. 30 to the Conservatives, 2 to the Liberals and NDP. There have been 3 seats added in Alberta for this election, but as I mentioned, it is tight, especially in some of the cities in Calgary and in Edmonton. The Libs are looking to gain ground. Could they gain as well on some of the NDP in Edmonton? What happens to the Conservative vote? Will there be any splitting from right-wing Alberta sovereignty or separatists, or even the People's Party? As you can see, they split the vote, and that could mean the difference. I'm calling 30 to the Conservatives, 6 to the Libs, and 1 to the NDP in Alberta. British Columbia. It would be great if BC is going to be deciding who wins tomorrow night. If that's the case, I think it's looking good for the Conservatives. If it's already over, and in that case, it's just potentially limiting the Liberals from not winning a majority, because the Conservatives are gaining ground in BC, specifically on the island in some NDP and Green ridings, as well as in interior BC. In terms of if the Conservatives are going to win, we got to look to some key ridings outside the Vancouver area, specifically Delta and Trois-Rivières. Finally, let's finish off with Ontario. Once again, Ontario will decide this election. It will be the GTA that really decides who's going to be Prime Minister. And what we're hearing on the ground is that in a lot of working class Ontario, the Conservatives have been making grounds, specifically in southwestern Ontario, in Niagara, Windsor, Hamilton. And then as you get into the GTA, Doug Ford just really swept a lot of these ridings. And can Pierre gain any grounds? Keep an eye in Mississauga, in Brampton, in Oakville, in York Region, the Markhams. And then as you go up in towards Northern Ontario, the NDP had some strength there. Pierre's been battling a lot in that area, a lot of initiatives around the Ring of Fire. Could those tip to the CPC? If there's any problems to run up the board and Pierre has any chance, it's going to be in Ontario. So we will see. We will see what happens tomorrow night, but Ontario is going to decide the election. And to any of my family and friends, the Conservative Party grassroots movements will need your help tomorrow. There's still get out to vote activities, scrutineer activities, and if you'd like to get involved to help the Conservatives, I encourage you to do so. So a couple final thoughts before we wrap up here. What to look for tomorrow? There's a blue wave here. As I mentioned, even the polling numbers that we see, the Conservatives are at the same numbers that Stephen Harper won in 2011. The difference this time around is the NDP and Bloc have been getting obliterated, and they're all going towards the Libs. So it's becoming a two-horse race. Is there a silent majority like we saw the youth vote come out in 2015 for Trudeau's majority that might come for Pierre? Or are the NDP and Bloc going to get obliterated and Carney might be going towards majority territory? I think what we're going to see is a minority government tomorrow night. I think we're going to see the Bloc having the balance of power, which is why my prediction that we'll be back at the polls in 9 months. The Blocs would be an interesting dance partner for the Liberals because their supporters, if they get too close to the Liberals, will run the risk of what happened with the NDP, and they would think, why do I not just vote for the Liberals and get a majority? And if they were a dance partner for the Conservatives, I just think it's tough to get stuff done, and most likely outcome is we're back at the polls in 9 months, unlike the coalition that we saw with the Libs and NDPs in a minority government for the last 4 years. So it's going to be tight. Your vote matters. If you haven't already done so, please get out to vote. I finished with a graphic on here from the OECD data just showing per capita growth with the Liberals in the last 9 years. As you can see, Canada is down at number 41st on this list. When Trudeau was taking over, we were between 5th and 8th on this ranking the previous 9 years under the Harper government. And that is the main reason. There's lots of reasons why people vote, but we need to change this. We need to change the trajectory of our company. And for that, I am voting for change and Pierre Poilievre. That's it. Some stuff you might not see in the mainstream media. Get out and vote. Enjoy tomorrow, and let's go Blue Wave. Thank you very much.